U.S. Senator Frank Lautenberg wants a fifth term in the Senate. You may recall he had retired after his third term, but came to have to run again when Senator Robert Boricelli's campaign self-destructed amid scandal. Rob Andrews, who has represented the 1st Congressional District in South Jersey since being elected in 1990, says it's time for a change within his own party. Here now on Live at Issue is Congressman Rob Andrews. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Good morning, Steve.
The issue of crime in the state of New Jersey is as relevant as it is in the city of Philadelphia.
I'll tell you one thing I would do is try to get national laws that cut down on this gun epidemic on the streets of our state and our country. I don't see any reason why someone should have an AK-47 or an Uzi on the streets of New Jersey. One of the ways I pursued that, Steve, is I think we should have a national gun ballistics database. I think that every time a gun is sold, its ballistic fingerprint should be recorded. And if a bullet from that gun is recovered from the crime scene, as was the case with the death of this officer, the police would know specifically what gun they are looking for to trace the gun back to the perpetrator and prosecute these people.
Do you think that there are enough laws on the books right now, or are you saying you need that law and other laws? Like Philadelphia wants to be able to, for example, have a package of its own laws that will pass state muster, and they're trying to do that. Should Jersey communities like Camden and Newark and Trenton be able to do that too?
We should. We should have a law that says you can only buy one gun a month. We should have a renewal of the background check and make it apply to all weapons across this country. We should close the gun show loophole so people can't go to a gun show today and not have a background check and bring that gun in the state of New Jersey. Guns are a huge part of the crime problem, but another big piece of it is that we don't have enough police on the street. You know, President Clinton had the COPS program where we wanted to put 100,000 police officers on the street. The Bush administration has largely done away with that. I think instead of spending $10 billion a month in Iraq, we should bring the troops home, bring some of that money home, and use it to hire more police officers to keep us safe on the streets of New Jersey.
Do you differ from Frank Lautenberg in these areas?
I do. On the question of Iraq, for example, I've put forth a plan as to how we can come home from Iraq. The senator never has. Instead, he's chosen to run a very stale, tired, status quo campaign that just attacks me.
Well, he attacks you because you were not only voted for, but helped write the authorization to go into Iraq.
Well, he's wrong about that. No, that's not correct, and he's he's misrepresenting his record. The fact of the matter is, I'm explaining my record and answering people's questions. The fact of the matter is that the senator, when he was running against Mr. Forrester in 2002, explicitly said he would have voted for the war. And then after he got into the Senate, after he had access to the intelligence reports and heard the briefings, he fully supported the war. When the war started, he said the time for dissent was over. The senator is misrepresenting his record on this, and frankly, Steve, I think...
You're saying your records are the same.
I'm saying we both supported going into the war, but they're different in the sense that I've talked about how to get out. He just never has.
Do you think you made a mistake in 2002?
I think that removing Saddam Hussein was right and necessary because the intelligence community told us he had biological and chemical weapons that he could use against the United States. Obviously, that intelligence was flawed and misrepresented to the American people. But I think it's a responsible decision when you're told that someone can attack our country with biological and chemical weapons to do something about it.
You think your judgment is better than his?
No, I don't think that's true. I think that my plan is better than his because he has none. What the people of New Jersey are asking us about Iraq is how do we get out? And Steve, in November of 2006, I made a very specific proposal as to how to get out of Iraq within 18 months. Had it been followed, we'd be out today. The senator's never done that because his campaign is really about the politics of destruction. It's about criticizing the other guy. It's about saying what's wrong with the other guy. I've chosen a very different tack. I've traveled around the state. I've talked about my ideas and what I believe in. You know, Steve, I began this campaign by challenging the senator to debate me at least 7 times around the state, so your audience could hear my views and hear his and make an informed judgment. 11 news organizations, including this television channel, have offered to sponsor debates. Now, I've accepted all 11 of those invitations. The senator has accepted none. And I think that, one of the reasons is he really doesn't want to debate this issue because he's not really had anything constructive to say about it.
You use the words tired and stale. Is he too old?
That's a decision the voters are going to have to make. That's not for me to say. I will say this. In 1982, Senator Rottenberg ran against a 72-year-old woman, Congresswoman Millicent Fenwick. And as you may remember, the entire basis of his campaign was she's too old to serve in the Senate. So he said that a woman was too old to serve at 72. He's now 84.
Well, it sounds like you're saying he is too old. You use tired and stale, and I want to show some other words that you have here, at least mention them. You said, for example, at one point that you have ideas. This is about yourself. I have energy. I have a sense of what the country ought to do. I have energy. The implication there is that perhaps your opponent does not have energy.
That's not an implication. The fact is, Steve, that I'm going 18 hours a day around the state. I'll appear before any audience, answer any question, and the senator is kind of AWOL.
All right.
And I think he has to explain why that is.
State Senator Paul Sarlo from Bergen, a supporter of yours, said, I fervently believe generational change is needed. Again, you're saying this guy's time has passed.
I'm saying the voters have to make that decision, Steve. I'm saying that the time to change the country is now. 10,000 people have lost their jobs in New Jersey this year. There's 1 million people without health insurance in the state. We have a significant problem in our state with transportation funding to create jobs.
I have to get to break, and I want to wrap up.
The change the state needs is something the senator is really not talking about.
But in 2002, when Lautenberg came in at the last minute to go up against Doug Forrester, I think you sat in, you played Doug Forrester and knocked the base with him. You were for Lautenberg then. I think as late as 2005, you contributed to his campaign.
Sure.
What has changed in 2 years?
Well, what's changed is that Democrats around the state said they wanted an energetic, active campaign to change our country. They felt the senator wasn't providing it. They wanted an honest choice. They wanted a change. A lot of people from one end of the state to the other have asked me to run, and I'm honored they have. And I made a choice to do it, to give the people an honest choice.
In politic terms, it seems like a last-minute decision with only 2 months before the primary.
Well, you know what? I don't think so. We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. We have support all over the state. It's growing. I think people are kind of sick and tired of long campaigns anyway. I think they kind of like the idea that they're going to have to endure 60 days of this and make a decision. We're very confident we're going to win.
All right. Rob Andrews is 50 years old, married with 2 children. He's a graduate of Bucknell University. His law degree is from Cornell. He served as freeholder director of Camden County. He was first elected to Congress in 1990. He ran for governor in the Democratic primary in 1997, losing a very close race to Jim McGreevey, a very narrow margin. Congressman Andrews is here again with me now. Let's take a look at one of the latest polls that's been taken. I believe this is the Monmouth poll, and it tries to gauge what's going on in the Lautenberg-Andrews race. And it says that 35% of the people, Democrats polled, said they want Lautenberg back. 20% say for the mayor of Morristown. And a lot of people, about 28%, undecided. So the bad news for you there is you're behind Frank Lautenberg. The good news for you there is that only 35% want him and 28% undecided. What do you make of that?
We're really optimistic about that. That here's a senator that served for nearly 3 decades, who's known by everyone in the primary, who don't get about a third of the people to vote for him. And what we're going to do is go out and try to earn the votes of everybody. I'm wearing out my shoe leather, literally, going from one end of the state to the other, talking to those voters, and we sense a sea change for changing the country.
Well, a lot of the that are coming out this year really do want that change on the Democratic side. There are people who rate people as liberal and conservative. You have had, I think it's fair to say, a reputation as a moderate for most of your career. There are different rankings that come out. The American Conservative Union, for example, has them. The Council for a Livable World, which is a liberal group, has them. It gives Frank Lautenberg, the Council for a Livable World, does a 90, you a 50, and the Conservative Union ranks members of Congress every year. And I think in 2006 or 7, you came in at an 18. He came in at a 0. The implication there is you're not as liberal as he is. Is that a good or a bad thing for Democrats?
I don't know what that all means. I know that I'm 100% pro-choice. I know that I have a 0% record from the National Rifle Association. I know I have the highest rankings of really anybody in our state from environmentalists.